It is my honor to introduce Mr. Usman Barkat, who will be sharing his insights on artificial intelligence for retail. As the head of operations at Algo in Pakistan, he is responsible for overseeing the technology, product strategy, roadmap, and life cycle of innovative solutions for the supply chain industry. With over 15 years of experience in merchandising, planning, operations, and systems, Mr. Usman is deeply passionate about digital transformation, technology architecture, and strategic development. His extensive global experience equips him with a unique perspective on how technology can revolutionize industries. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Usman Barkat to the stage as he shares his thoughts on the transformative power of artificial intelligence.
Assalamu alaikum. So I've been tasked with this uh, action कि मैं लोगों को थोड़ा सा जगा दूं before they open that partition and then everybody's in this hall. So we can use that time to do two exercises, right? So Farhan, if you're with me, I would encourage everybody in the room to take their phones out, everyone without any exception. Take a screen, point it to your screen, take a snapshot of that QR code, and try and fill in. Let's see, what is the level of AI awareness in this room. So I want to make it as interactive as possible. And there are two additional screens in the background as well. People can use that to scan the same QR code. That's number one. Dusra, thank you for this generous introduction. I don't know आपने कहाँ से लिया वो introduction मेरा. I have this role at Algo as Chief Product Officer. I'm responsible for managing supply chain operations through a SaaS platform that we have for a lot of global organizations, throughout the world. We have major presence in North America and in Asia Pacific. And alongside that, what we are trying to achieve is that making sure that we capture a lot of data points in the S&OP space of those businesses and try and connect to execution as well. So not only from demand planning, long range demand planning, but right down to the promotion planning, execution, shelf level action. We try and cover all of that. So first question there is, how confident are you that AI will improve retail customer service within the next year? 5 means you're very confident. This is the 4th conference that I'm on, and every time they give me this topic of future of AI in retail of Pakistan. And courtesy of working with a different company here, subsidiary company here in Pakistan, I still see nobody has made any progress in AI in Pakistan. So just want to understand that context and making it as interactive as possible in terms of where are those bottlenecks? Where are we stuck today? Which of the following retail operations do you believe AI will have the most impact on? So again, very straightforward question. I really want to understand audience because you are a representation of the retail industry vertical of Pakistan. कि कहाँ पे ज़रूरत है? Where can we make an impact through AI? And if that awareness exists today, then we can play a bigger role as an organization and other tech firms which are present in the hall to enable you in terms of, how do we bring that awareness to the organization and how do we enable those organizations through different ways. How much of retail decision making can be automated by AI? Big. If this is the belief that we have within this room, then that means there is something wrong with the tech companies that are providing support here, right? वो awareness, वो ecosystem नहीं provide कर पा रहे हम, so that you guys are enabled with the AI, or misconception है. So I want to break that misconception today in this session. Nothing fancy, nothing technical in nature, but we'll make sure we'll start off by explaining a lot of the basic fundamentals of AI and try and see those use cases in terms of, okay, वो use cases कौन से हैं, how are they classified? So while they're still figuring out how to remove that partition, Let's do another exercise. So show of hands, अगर आप इस पूरे list में से, if you know that how many use cases out of this list you are actually implementing within your organization by AI or machine learning or any such form, or even through statistical optimization of any form. So if there are more than two, if there are more than one, then I want to see a show of hand. एक दफा पढ़ लेते हैं. And if you want any explanation of this, I can spend a minute to explain that as well. तो फिर वो इतनी सारी awareness और passion था, वो कहाँ है? Means वो सिर्फ वो, is it just limited to that we believe that it will change and we have not started that journey? I think then we need to unearth a different problem, which is why we are not starting on this journey. What's so difficult about it? Is it data that is holding us back? Is it people that is holding us back? Is it the knowledge base within the organization? Because awareness, you just shown me, there is a huge awareness within the organization कि AI ने दुनिया बदल देनी है. मगर I don't see a single show of hand where people, anyone, कोई एक use case right now you're attempting in your organization out of this through AI? I see one there. Keep your hand up अगर दो हैं तो. And keep your hand up अगर तीन use cases आप use कर रहे हैं तो. All of them are gone, right? So I wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. We talk about AI, it's a fancy word. Since after ChatGPT's inception, everybody wants to be on the bandwagon, everybody wants to talk about it, but nobody is really actually implementing it in their businesses. So that's the biggest problem today. And this list is in no specific order. Absolutely none. So you see scenarios where you have things like basic data sanitation challenges within your organization. I know, with courtesy of working with most of the brands in Pakistan, I know there are challenges, and then there are people deployed, focused on to minimize them, and there is no way to make sure that those flaws or errors don't creep back in. अगले कॉलम में कोई देखते हैं, we talk about segmentation and clustering. I see that there are still a lot of people doing that because of the complex nature of their businesses, but they still do that manually in a big way. Excel के ऊपर, you just sort them by 2 or 3 parameters that you have, and you feel that you have a cluster at hand. That's not the scenario. So I want to take an approach, and we did that, and this list came out of a big exercise that we did at Algo, where we wanted to see how many use cases have Algo deployed over the last 50 customers that we have implemented on. And we came up with a classification of that. So we were using our own medicine to do clustering of this data set that is in front of you. हमने इसकी segmentation करने की कोशिश की. एक axis के ऊपर we have the implementation difficulty from easy and very difficult to implement. And the other axis I have availability of information and data availability within your organization right down to high availability. Do you see anything different now? Do you see a classification where you can feel, okay, something which is easy to implement, and also there might be a possibility there is a high availability of data within my organization to attempt those use cases? So just using a quick analysis, AI analysis, we did some clustering and segmentation, and now you see a quadrant where there is a highly likelihood of a lot of people who are based here that we can use AI to do our product launches. Why? Because we have some form of data available. We have launched products in the past. If there is not a similar product, we can always use like mapping to adopt towards similar curve from the data set that we have. So all of this is just to give you some clarity that how many use cases exist today within retail ecosystem जो हम really में impact कर सकते हैं. So, things like inventory allocation. That is, I think we will talk about more inventory allocation or replenishment. But in scenario, what we want to do is, we really want to, how do I use it? Okay, right, thank you. So we have these, we talked about inventory allocation. Simple function, AI function. You have certain parameters across your organization. There is shelf space available. There are assortment behaviors available from your previous databases. You should be able to automate it completely. And there's a lot of data available um, from the past instances for you to make that work. So there are few that we have identified here, जो कि बहुत आसान हैं to really implement, but at the same time, there is significant amount of data set available within your organizations to work on. But then there are more as well. So if I talk about high availability of data and difficult to implement, if you really want to optimize the way you replenish to your stores, what kind of parameter do I need to look at? Frequency, economic order quantity, transportation cost, my forecast accuracy to the grain, where उस दुकान के ऊपर क्या बिक रहा है, किस टाइम के ऊपर बिक रहा है, and उसकी forecast accuracy high होनी चाहिए, of course, if you want to automate it and so on and so forth. So it becomes really difficult. The maths is really simple, but because we are in a business where forecast is really, really volatile, you're unable to make that work. And there are a few more where we feel that they're difficult to implement. But I really want to classify it further for you in terms of how do we further segregate them into 4 different use cases by functions. For example, there are 4 type of AIs that you see in those lists. कुछ cases हम देख रहे थे वहाँ पे, which are primarily content generation, where AI is asked or tasked with generating content. Then we have insights generation, जहाँ पे आप generative BI के through actionable insights generate करवा सकते हैं, given अगर आपने right memory neural network set कर दिया है अपने database के अंदर. Then you have optimization, so you can give a function, objective function to maximize my profitability by changing my allocation because there is a constrained allocation I have to make. Mera on time in full is less than 50%. I want to maximize it. Make sure that goes to those stores which have a higher gross profit yield to it. And then there is interaction. How do we interact? Asynchronous interaction with your team members and making sure that a lot of those are captured by the system, because every time you interact with the system, you are able to create a memory. You should be creating a memory for the system to go back to in future. So if there are 4 types of this, I want to go back to that slide and color code it to show you which one of those are now, because I believe the content generation one should be the simpler ones. Insight generations one should be the simpler ones. Optimization, ठीक है, समझ आती है. It's difficult to attempt because of so many additional variables, heuristics that you have to find out. But even within that, there are use cases, especially with reference to this purple color and pink color, that I should be able to work on, in the short term, especially, or at least take certain actions to start working on those use cases as we talk. So I'm going to take a pause here on this slide and encourage you to make it interactive and ask that, do we really understand what these terms are? So maybe 2 or 3 questions in terms of which one do you feel is the one जिसमें थोड़ी vagueness है and you want to have a double click in terms of that how do we attempt it through AI. Anybody? Mustafa?
What should be the first step for a retail company
To start on AI.
to gain the courage to enter the
Means maybe understand these use cases and say, okay, where is the highest availability of data with me? What are the lowest, highest yield and lowest at risk to attempt maybe? Things that will not, fail on you. For example, if I want to start off with, I will start off with something softer, customer segmentation maybe, and see, okay, what do I get? What kind of additional insights can I get out of my customer segmentation? You use an AI model, you do your segmentation, and then based on that, you are able to now classify your revenue into maybe 8 segments. People who are your champions, people who you don't want to leave, people who used to come more to your stores, but now their return rate is declining as may. So, अगर आपके पास ये data set exist करता है, what's harm in attempting a use case like this? Because you're not compromising your replenishment or allocation or any other major function that directly impacts your revenue. The only best side out of this is you attempt a use case that is able to add to your revenue or put additional color or do some bottom-up validation to your top-down plan, right? So a lot of these use cases, they primarily will only add to the ROI of the investment that you're doing in AI. So if I talk about, let's say, for example, creating a collaborative workspace between your stores and your back office to make sure that they are able to maybe send out a quarterly regional forecast of what they think should be the sales by price point of a certain product line. Will that add value? Of course it will. So now you'll have a bottom-up validation, but you also have a top-down view in terms of, okay, this is where I have to marry these. This is the difference of perception of what my demand planners are thinking back office and what my ground staff is thinking bottom-up. So if you are able to create a collaborative system of some sort, you should be able to now have those streams of information coming in, and they let them be, let them interact with each other. Come up with a consensus forecast maybe before you, launch your next PO run, and so on and so forth. So good question means simply by creating an ecosystem where you say, as part of my workflow, I want a bottom-up bet from my regional teams or my channel operations team or from my retail operations team, whatever you call them today. And I want to validate that with my top-down data before I go my seasons planning. So those kind of things, really helpful. Any other? Let's do one more. I'm not going to move unless we have another question. Please. Telemetry is user system use kaise kar rahe hain? Simple. How are they using the system today? So for example, if there is an analyst, there are two types of analysts in every organization. There are people who create content, and there are people who consume content. So you'll always find people who geek out on looking at data and then try and come up with an analysis, and after analysis, they're normally not the best to consume that data and take action on it. So then you have to have a space where people creating content are there in the same room with the people who are consuming content. So telemetry is looking at the behavior of user using those reports. How much time does he really spend in that analytics website? Or looking at Shopify analytics, for example, and then actioning them really in reality. So having that connection available where you're able to look at certain heat maps of users and see, okay, this person's most likely report to go to is this. And AI then uses it in a different way. It also uses it to localize a lot of delivery for you. For example, a lot of generative AI-based systems, what they're doing today is that they're keeping a memory of everybody's persona. So if as a CXO in your organization, you're looking at some KPIs, it will remember that. It will remember those questions that you're asking to it. It will, again, use those questions to now suggest new questions for you. So things of that sort are really, really driven by things like telemetry. So, and there's a new term since after ChatGPT is here, and we always talk about generative AI or generative BI. What is generative BI? What is stopping us today to get to a state where we have a scenario planning module or a insight generation module or a demand planning module where we are using generative BI of some sort, or ChatGPT for your own organization, where system has the access to some structured data. System allows you to bring unstructured data, upload an Excel file, and utilizing that, it should be able to suggest you something, because AI, as inherent, has certain qualities. We talked about telemetry, we talked about persona identification, there are other things. So now, what are the major things that, and I'm using McKinsey's framework here. So, सबसे बड़ी hindrance किसी भी scenario के अंदर ये है कि you want to have a semantic layer built on top of your database. So you have data from your CRMs flowing in, footfall counter लगे हुए हैं, e-commerce का data कहीं और से आ रहा है, customer experience का data कहीं और पड़ा हुआ है, returns कहीं और पड़ी हुई हैं, quality का data कहीं और पड़ा हुआ है. You want to have them in one place and build that semantic layer that acts as a digital twin for AI to work on. So I think this is the biggest hindrance today. Nobody takes that initiative कि मैं सारे ecosystem को इकट्ठा कर दूं एक जगह के ऊपर, and try and build those relationships from one data table to another. Because in organizations we have scenarios जहाँ पे ये data exist नहीं कर रहा होता आपके पास किसी एक जगह के ऊपर. And humanly it's impossible at times because of the complexity of the data that you're unable to bring it to a state where AI can structurally conversate with it. Hence, there is an opportunity where you now can go do this interaction through generative BI. And we're going to give you a quick demo about it. Yeah, okay. I've been told I have 3 minutes left. Let's see if you can move on to the next slide. So, what is the relationship of AI that that it can have with you? And it's important to understand because हमें सबको समझ आ रही है कि AI क्या कर सकता है. Nobody is taking action. There were 5 people in the hall जिन्होंने कहा कि मैं 2 से ज़्यादा use cases पे काम करना सोच रहा हूँ. So what is it then we need to do? Then AI के साथ हमारा ताल्लुक क्या है? रिश्ता कैसे जोड़ना है? Do you want it to augment what we are doing? Maybe that's a risk. AI take over करके लेना जाए हमारी कंपनी कहीं और. ये भी हो सकता है, possibility है. So हम वो relationship के terms agree कर लेते हैं. What do we want? Do we want augmentation relationship? Do we want a co-creator relationship? Do we want a replacement relationship? And I'm going to touch upon one use case each on all those 3 relationships to explain कि ये relationships कैसे flow करते हैं. Farhan, if you can jump on to the next slide. I'm not going to go on each one of those slides. For example, in the before world than AI, substitution, how is it done today? मेरे पास एक item खत्म हो गया. अब किस दुकान पे salesman ने recommend करना है कि इसका alternative क्या है? It's purely his own knowledge, and there is no structure to it. Post AI, you should be able to have a system where it understands cannibalization, substitution behavior, when it was out of stock, what was the other item doing at that level? Was the item out of stock? Was the key item in my line, or was it bottom item of line? So, and again, brand affinity. If you're a national brand, Apple के AirPods खत्म हो गए हैं तो कोई आके Sony के AirPods नहीं मांगेगा. People want Apple Watch अगर वही खत्म हुई है तो. So brand affinity and the relationship of that would work. But now AI can figure that out and it recommends substitution products instantly to augment your sales. And you can have handheld devices, you can have a screen in the store where person can simply go scan the barcode and say, okay, ये वाला item खत्म है, what should be the ideal most item should I recommend to that person? So this is like a augmentation. The other one is co-creation. Visual merchandising, for example. Neural network driven. So AI के अंदर, through neural network, you are able to design spaces now where you can have visual merchandising specifically, talking to your operations team in a way that you get the best out of your layouts, season by season. How many times do I need to change my VM? It should not be a calendar-driven thing. It should be a seasonality-driven thing, and so on and so forth. अगली slide पे जाइएगा. The last one is replacement, replenishment. I have some inventory, I have some rules, and if I figure out how do I, those rules are captured in the system should be able to replenish without fail. At least 50% of my lines who have historical data available, and so on and so forth. So using AI, we can have a lot of those scenarios built in. So I'm going to use the last 2 minutes to give you an example of something that we have achieved in a generative BI kind of a platform, where you're able to interact with that platform just by prompting to it. People who have used Slack is like Slack and combination of Power BI, but a much more different genre of analytics. So with consent, I have an implementation in Australia with a company called IPA. And what we have done there is we have created a concept called Dataverse. So मेरे पास on time in full का data है, compliance. System is able to generate a compliance dataverse where you're able to see, okay, if you click there, a complete semantic layer of what was in that table. So you don't need any data engineer to know or tell you कि उस data में था क्या. And there are like 50 tables available. System should be able to make those combination and mappings on its own and provide you with that comfort that, okay, I figured I'm 90% of the way there. Start asking questions and learn more along the way. So the data layer is generated. If you go back to a channel, and we have created collaboration environment within that, and start asking questions. So if there is a data available within the system, for example, on product master, location master, and I want to understand, Farhan, let's say ask a question about compliance. On, let's ask for an analysis for compliance by store, by manufacturer, for example. And feel free to ask any question. In less than 30 seconds, since that semantic layer and dataverse is available, system should go in, figure out those correlations, and come back with an enterprise-ready dashboard in less than 30 seconds. I'm not normally a big fan of live demos, but let's see if it returns back the answer in less than 30 seconds. And it does. So if you click on it and expand it, first of all, expand it. It is showing you that it's 90% of the way. It has found some key findings. It has given you some additional questions to ask as well, a different way of asking the same question, maybe. And it will provide you, and if you can go back and click on another question, any other question that we've asked earlier, for example, and expand it, you'll get a complete dashboard available for you to look at in less than 30 seconds. That's telling you what is the compliance trend by product category. And now you're not dependent upon anybody's help, any technical team's help, to get to this point. You're prompting, and it's providing you with an answer in less than 30 seconds. So we call this state as democratization of actionable insights. So within 30 seconds, if you have designers within your organization who are timid by asking technical questions, they should not be timid anymore. Now, you can create a channel, let's say, design and demand planning department, co-space. They ask their questions before they design their next season. And system is now learning by understanding persona of each of those designers, that what have they done in the past, what was the actual performance of the items that they've produced in the past, and so on and so forth. So AI, we can start anywhere you want to. But again, I encourage everyone before the next 5th Future of Retail that at least one of us, at least the big retailers in Pakistan, at least choose one use case to start with, and we can start that journey. Thank you very much. I think Mamish has a question. I think knowing your customer, he talked about customer experience. We don't know anything about customer when we create our demand plans, right? So this is a good way to start. Start off with a basic segmentation. Start off with a basic segmentation of your stores maybe. Create clusters and see, not all the assortment has to go to every store. I want to localize some of the assortment from the superset. These stores should only have these items, and these stores should only have these items. What will it impact? It will only impact your working capital, right, in a positive way. So things like that where you can experiment and retract back quickly and then do something else as well. So I'll make sure that this is published on the Future of Retail site so that you guys have access to the list that we talked about. Really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.